والأمم التي تحتفل بهذه المناسبة دون أن تعاني من ذكرى أي يوم من أيام جيشها يرتبط بحالة هزيمة أو بموقف.
Saddam Hussein, a name that once echoed through the Middle East with fear, power, and controversy. For nearly 3 decades, Saddam ruled Iraq with an iron fist, cultivating a personality cult so massive it sometimes seemed like he was trying to compete with history itself. His reign wasn't just about control, it was about obsession, paranoia, and a sense of grandeur that bordered on madness. Born in a small village near Tikrit in 1937, Saddam's rise from a poor, fatherless child to the all-powerful president of Iraq is one of the most dramatic in modern history. But once he seized power in 1979, what followed was a reign defined not only by brutality, but also by bizarre acts that left the world both horrified and fascinated. One of the strangest things Saddam ever did was write a romance novel. Yes, the dictator who waged wars and crushed dissent also fancied himself a writer. The book was called Zabiba and the King, and it told the story of a noble king who falls in love with a pure woman named Zabiba. On the surface, it was a love story, but everyone in Iraq knew what it really was, a self-serving allegory. The king was Saddam, Zabiba represented the Iraqi people, and of course, the story painted the ruler as wise, kind, and misunderstood. The novel was later adapted into a television series and even made mandatory reading in schools. In Saddam's world, propaganda wasn't just political, it was romantic. But the romance didn't stop there. Saddam was obsessed with monuments, and not just ordinary ones. During his rule, he built more than 80 palaces across Iraq. Some of them were constructed in record time, designed to outshine any foreign leader's residence. They were filled with gold-plated faucets, Italian marble, and chandeliers imported from France. From Baghdad to Basra, Saddam's palaces stood as glittering symbols of power in a country where ordinary citizens struggled with poverty and ration lines. Many of those palaces also had underground bunkers and secret tunnels, a reflection of Saddam's growing paranoia as enemies, both real and imagined, closed in around him. Everywhere you turned in Iraq, there was Saddam. His face smiled down from posters. His name echoed in speeches. His statues loomed over every city square. Thousands of portraits and sculptures of him were commissioned. There was Saddam the soldier, Saddam the farmer, Saddam the father of the nation. It was as if he wanted to be every version of Iraq that could possibly exist. Some Iraqis joked privately that the sun probably rose because Saddam ordered it to, but behind the grand palaces and the self-portraits was a regime built on fear. Saddam's government carried out brutal purges, eliminating anyone he suspected of disloyalty, ministers, military officers, even members of his own family. In 1979, during one of his first televised meetings as president, Saddam called out supposed traitors one by one as they were led out of the hall to be executed. The remaining officials were forced to applaud. It was a chilling performance of power, the kind of theater only a dictator could stage. Then came the crimes that shocked the world. In 1988, at the end of the long Iran-Iraq war, Saddam's forces used chemical weapons on the Kurdish town of Halabja. Thousands of men, women, and children died in a single day. The images of the dead, entire families frozen where they had fallen, became a permanent stain on his regime. It was one of the most horrific acts of mass murder of the 20th century. Yet even as he committed atrocities, Saddam tried to present himself as a man of faith. In the late 1990s, he commissioned a Qur'an written entirely in his own blood. Over the course of 2 years, he allegedly donated more than 27 liters of blood to an artist who inscribed the verses by hand. Saddam claimed it was a personal gift to God. Religious scholars, however, were outraged. To them, writing the holy text in human blood was sacrilege. But in Saddam's mind, it was another monument to himself, a mix of devotion and megalomania. Saddam's obsession with control extended to his own family. His sons, Uday and Qusay, were raised in luxury and violence. Uday, the eldest, became infamous for his cruelty. He reportedly beat athletes who lost games, tortured political rivals, and even killed members of his own staff for minor offenses. Uday's reign of terror was so extreme that many Iraqis feared him even more than his father. Qusay, by contrast, was quieter but equally ruthless, overseeing Iraq's security forces and secret police. Together, the Hussein family ruled through intimidation and blood. Saddam's punishments for enemies were often barbaric. Stories emerged of prisoners being fed to lions or dissolved in acid. While some of these tales are difficult to verify, there's no question that his regime used torture and execution on a massive scale. Saddam himself reportedly enjoyed watching interrogations, sometimes ordering new methods to make the suffering more creative. Power and cruelty had become performance art. Then there was his obsession with his own name. Saddam International Airport, Saddam University, Saddam City, even a brand of cigarettes called Saddam. His ego was stamped across Iraq like a national trademark. Children sang songs praising him in school. Streets were renamed after him. It wasn't just propaganda, it was identity control. To question Saddam was to question Iraq itself. During the 1980s, Saddam also saw himself as a modern Nebuchadnezzar, the ancient Babylonian king who ruled the same land thousands of years earlier. He poured millions into restoring ancient Babylon and inscribed his own name on the bricks, right next to the words of the ancient ruler. It was as if he wanted history to merge his legacy with the kings of old, part myth, part man, all power. Even as Iraq suffered under economic sanctions in the 1990s, Saddam continued to live in unimaginable luxury. Imported food, exotic animals, fleets of expensive cars. He had it all. Meanwhile, Iraqis faced shortages of medicine and food. Television broadcasts showed him firing rifles into the air or swimming in the Tigris River, smiling, trying to appear as the unbreakable father of the nation. But behind that smile, Iraq was collapsing. When the United States invaded Iraq in 2003, Saddam's empire finally fell apart. His statues were torn down, his palaces looted, his portraits burned in the streets. For months, he vanished, hiding in bunkers and safe houses, until he was finally captured in December of that year. When soldiers found him, he was bearded, dirty, and living in a small underground hole near Tikrit, a far cry from the marble halls he once ruled. Even in captivity, Saddam never admitted guilt. He faced trial for crimes against humanity, including the murder of hundreds of Iraqis in the 1980s. Throughout the proceedings, he insisted he was still Iraq's rightful president. To the very end, he held on to his delusions of grandeur. He was executed by hanging in 2006, still defiant. Today, Iraq continues to live with the scars of his dictatorship. The palaces remain, some turned into government buildings, others left to decay, silent monuments to excess and fear. His blood-written Qur'an still exists, locked away and rarely shown to the public, a chilling reminder of how far his ego reached. Saddam Hussein's rule was not just about power. It was about image, control, and the dangerous illusion that one man could be the embodiment of an entire nation. His story is a warning of how absolute power, mixed with vanity and fear, can twist a human being into something monstrous. And how, even after the statues fall and the palaces crumble, the echoes of that madness can haunt a country for generations.